that is. Oh boy.
Is it on the Bloom page na, Luis?
I had to cancel it and then remake because I forgot to put I forgot to put a title.
Okay. Right. Try to start a watch party.
Okay, go ahead. There. That makes more sense. Okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna kick it off now.
Yeah.
Just need to make sure. Hey Tony, I'm not 100% sure about the audio setup today because I had to make some tweaks. So if you or anyone hears na like some audio is not working, we need to find out like ASAP.
I can message you on Facebook Messenger, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Sige, let's get started now. So how do we do this again? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Good evening, everyone. It is episode 7 of the Bloomcast. We are coming to you live from our living rooms, our dining rooms, our restrooms, maybe our bedrooms. I am joined by a slightly smaller cast today, but still some awesome people. My name is Luis. I'm one of the founders of Bloom. With me, I guess to my left, Coach Eman. Say hi. You were not with us last week, and we really missed your presence. Below him, CTO of Bloom, Ramon Tayag. That's a pretty nice location. Where are you these days?
Somewhere in Thailand. I think I just woke up here, so.
Oh wow, that's great.
Somewhere in Thailand.
Are you still have both of your kidneys, naman?
Yeah.
Okay.
And good internet. No, not.
Okay. Below him, Chief Conscience Officer of Bloom Solutions, Tony Reyes. Still in her nice living room.
Jerry's.
Jerry Seinfeld's living room.
Yeah.
And with us from Paxful Philippines, April Albero in her co-working space. This is your real office, no?
Yeah. Hi.
If you're not actually there.
No, I wish.
Nice. Do you miss going to work?
Yeah, and going to the gym.
Yeah,
Especially.
You need a home gym. I think Coach Eman has a home gym, no?
Oh, that's very nice.
I wish. Sana.
With us also, with her video off, is Myrtle from Black Tides and from Binance Philippines, Arceline. If you want to say hi, you can go ahead. But I think you said that you didn't want to turn your video on. So anyway, okay. So hello. Thank you for restreaming. Okay. So we haven't even really started the episode yet. Already some minor technical difficulties about our Zoom layout. But what I'm gonna try to do now, I'm gonna try to share my screen so that everyone can see it, and you are gonna see some slight weirdness dun sa layout briefly. Maybe this will work. Will this work? Oh, I can. Hey, look, I can do this. Okay, so that's something. At least I can make this video a little bit bigger. Okay, so we're now 8 weeks
Rinig ba tayo, guys?
into
Rinig
the
ba tayo?
Bloomcast. Yeah, is the audio okay? Yeah, okay. Okay, great, awesome. Okay, so we're now 8 weeks into Bloomcast. That's kind of amazing. When we first decided we were gonna do this, I was thinking we'd do like 2 or 3 episodes, and then realized it was so much work. It is actually so much work, but so far we've gotten some pretty good feedback naman. So it's been fun, and I hope that a few people are finding the show useful. We're going to do an educational episode this week, and I think that if you saw our posts yesterday, then you'll probably know what it's about. But I'll just do one really funny little news segment lang, something that happened over the weekend that I wanted to share. So this one is, so apparently JK Rowling has discovered Bitcoin. JK Rowling is, of course, the author of Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts and all of that stuff. And 3 days ago, she posted on her Twitter, I don't understand Bitcoin. Please explain it to me. And obviously, because she's JK Rowling and she has millions of followers, she had firstly about 10,000 likes on that one post, and then basically everyone who knows anything about Bitcoin on Twitter just kind of piled on and started, trying to explain Bitcoin in very short tweets. No, so you had people like this guy Ben Mesrich. He said Hagrid was into Bitcoin before everyone else, but he lost the laptop he kept it on in 2011 has been searching a garbage dump near Hogwarts for it ever since. Right. But my favorite one is the one that's underneath that from Doge Toshi. Remember when Dobby was freed by a sock? Bitcoin is that sock. And as you can imagine, none of these tweets are actually all that helpful. But it was really funny to watch it. It got so viral that Elon Musk actually tried to pitch in also with his own definition. So JK Rowling says here, people are now explaining Bitcoin to me, and honestly, it's blah, blah, blah collectibles. My Little Pony, question mark? Blah, blah, blah computers, got one of those. Blah, blah, blah crypto, sounds creepy. Blah, 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 understand the risk. I don't know. And then Elon Musk comes in and he says, pretty much, although massive currency issuance by government central banks is making Bitcoin internet money look solid by comparison. Not exactly a funny joke, but I thought it was kind of interesting how far this whole tweet thing got. I mean, Elon Musk's tweet got about 15,000 likes on it, which is, I guess, kind of what happens when you're Elon Musk. Very sadly, the way that it ended was JK Rowling. This is from yesterday. So, it took about 3 days. No, she was still getting comments and tweets and retweets for 3 days after. She says, God bless every single one of you now earnestly explaining Bitcoin to me as though I'll grasp it if you break it down properly. Things like this are white noise to me. I cannot and will not ever understand Bitcoin, but I love you for thinking that I can or will. Oh, that's kind of sad. And then, just a few hours after that, she decided to troll everyone. And she said, this is getting silly. I'm not joining the Bitcoin community. It should be perfectly obvious by now that I've been trolling Bitcoin in the hope of boosting my significant Ethereum holdings. So sadly, there's a possibility that JK Rowling might be an ETH head instead of a Bitcoiner. But, the whole incident, quite funny, when I was watching it happen on Twitter. It made me think, like, how would you even explain something like Bitcoin in one sentence if you had to? Like, to someone like JK Rowling, I believe she's maybe in her 50s or something like that. Maybe a little older than that. Like, how would you even go about it with one sentence? Like, I really struggled, no? Because, like, I wanted to say something like, I mean, I didn't post anything. I felt like, half of the entire Bitcoin community had already commented on her thread by the time I saw it. But I was wondering, like, I don't even know how I would do it, like with one sentence. So I wanted to put it to the panel, just in case anyone had some ideas on how they would do that. Like, in one sentence, 1 or 2 sentences, how would you describe Bitcoin to JK Rowling? I'm at a loss personally, but what about you? What about you guys? Juan, do you have any ideas? Okay. I mean, it is pretty hard to explain, but like, what's the 1 or 2 sentences that you could say that will maybe make her interested? Instead of parang, the impression I got is she got a little bit freaked out by how passionate people were or whatever.
Yeah, that's very hard to explain, being a newbie myself. But if I'm going to try to maybe make it sound more interesting, maybe I would say it's a currency that connects unbanked or underbanked people around the world.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. And Ashley, that says a lot about your usage on Paxful, no? Because that is kind of the thing that makes Bitcoin very special. Juan, did you have any ideas there? Oh, you just muted yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't have one, but I'm going to steal one. This one's pretty good. It's deep. Like you won't understand it in one go, but I think it'll lead you to research on whatever you need to know to understand. It's from Travis Kling.
Okay.
He says Bitcoin is a non-sovereign, hard-capped supply, global, immutable, decentralized digital store
Oh
of value.
Jesus. Okay. That's,
There you go.
that's
It's your one sentence. Well, no, actually two. It is an insurance policy against monetary and fiscal policy responsibility from central banks and governments globally. So, would I expect JK Rowling to understand something like that the first time she reads it? No, I wouldn't.
I mean, it's very precise.
Yeah, it's
That's-
comprehensive.
It's very comprehensive. Tony Reyes, I have met your mother once. And it was actually weirdly, same night I met April pala. That was the same night, wasn't
Yeah,
it? When
I
I met
remember.
your mom and I met April, same night. Yeah.
Yeah, both of you met my mom.
Yeah, that was interesting. What did you tell her when you first described Bitcoin? I assume you've had this conversation at least once naman siguro.
Yeah, so I think one sentence is a bit of a challenge, but for people new or who aren't familiar with crypto, I just ask them, do you remember that time last year or was it 2 years ago when the banks, like all the ATMs were down, you couldn't withdraw, and I'm not gonna say which banks they were, but there was a glitch in the system and everyone had to say, sorry, we're undergoing system maintenance. And it was just frustrating because nobody could access their funds. So
Right.
I just help them remember that pain point and that day when the internet exploded with complaints, and say, well, with Bitcoin, that would never happen because it's decentralized and you own the Bitcoin. So it's not under a bank or, a central government, for example. Because I think when you say decentralized, a lot of people from the older generations, like my mom's generation, they become a bit wary and scared. So you just have to harp on the fact that, there are benefits. What are the benefits to decentralization and why Bitcoin exists to solve those pain points, those issues? So not one sentence, sorry, but it's
Yeah. I was gonna say.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're
okay.
not gonna buy. They're not gonna buy with that. They're just going to say, "Is that even a thing? Like, there's an actual job for that."
Yeah.
No, but they remember because they got hurt by that when they couldn't access their funds.
Right. Yeah, a lot of my friends. Actually, I do have some friends who are very specifically became Bitcoiners kind of around that time. So I can tell you that there were some people talaga that were very affected by that whole ATM problem. They did start switching some of their money.
Wow, that's interesting.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's rare, but
Yeah, like this is not an answer to your one sentence, but what really put me down the rabbit hole was to continue to just try and understand what money is. That's what made me, I guess, appreciate Bitcoin and what it is. Like decentralization is not. There are also some negatives that come to it. Like, well, why does something like Bitcoin need decentralization? Right, like understanding those things.
Yeah. I was thinking that if I had the opportunity to say something to JK Rowling, I'd probably say something like, it's kind of like having digital Gringotts, which is very kind of Harry Potter. Coach Eman, how do you explain it to newbies? Meron ka bang one sentence for Bitcoin?
Meron, syempre.
Of course. I mean, of course.
Yo, yung 100,000 mo magiging 1,000. Ayun, yun.
Wow, that's
so yun yung joke,
sad.
no? Ayun yung... yun yung syempre, we have to balance everything. Kasi pag masyadong maganda yung it sounds like upselling na eh. So yun yung yung worst part. Yung magandang part is yung sinabi ni Ramon. Yun nga, decentralized ledger bank. Decentralized ledger /bank. Money transfer. Yun.
Okay. I like the turns your 100,000 into 1,000. I don't think we can use that as the tagline of our company. It might not be a good idea.
Do you guys think that it's reasonable to expect that most people will understand what Bitcoin is? Like, let's say it starts to get popular. Like, most people put the time to understand, or they'll just use it the way they use money now.
I mean, I don't think people understand money,
Yeah.
right? We just use it. So to answer your question, no, I don't think that I don't think that the mass para the mainstream will ever completely understand or maybe even completely appreciate exactly how it all works. I think that to a certain extent, you just expect that they will benefit from whatever its advantages are for them, no? Whether they understand it or not. Parang it's like I don't completely understand how email works. I mean, I do sort of, but I don't really understand the inner workings. But we use it every day. So magiging ganun lang siya. It becomes a technology you just kind of just
Use.
benefit from without actually understanding
Yung interest pa
completely.
rin nila yung number one.
Yeah, right, correct. Oo. Okay, so that's actually all my news for this week. There were some other important news things, but I thought this was really funny because, and actually, sorry, for subsequent episodes, I might always just do like one news item now because if you do too many, it gets a little boring. So anyway, JK Rowling still not a Bitcoiner. There you go. We're gonna monitor that situation for you guys now. Coach, you were not here last week. We did not have a market analysis. I think we said the price was either going to go up or it was going to go down. I think yun yung forecast naman. And we weren't sure by how much it was going to go up or down.
Yeah.
So yun, it was
Pag wala ko, the fastest way para makapagbigay ka ng analysis. Kung hindi tataas, bababa. Ayun.
nice. Okay. That's,
Or pag hindi siya
pwede rin,
bababa,
pwede rin.
tataas. Ayun.
Pwede rin. Okay. Sige, I'll remember that for next time. Pero naalala ko yung disclaimer. This time I remember the disclaimer. I actually read your message to everyone. So yeah, so the disclaimer is everyone that's watching, this is not financial advice. We work in the industry, but we are not financial advisors. So yeah. So bro, you can take it away. I'll stop the screen share pala.
Nakashare na ba ako? Ay, hindi pa, no? So, ayun. Okay. So, market analysis. Ayun guys, welcome back sa another episode ng Bloom. And shoutout din pala sa mga viewers sa page namin nila Myrtle, sa lahat ng nasa Binance, and of course lahat ng nanonood sa Bloom page. Welcome. And in this market recap, we're going to check kung ano yung mga possibilities na pwede puntahan ng price in this week, since yung market recap naman natin is every week. So this will give you at least an estimate. Nakamute ba ako?
No, we can hear.
Ayan. At least mabibigyan tayo ng estimate kung saan ba yung possibility, kung saan pupunta yung price. And ito na nga, meron akong ginawang line dito. So this green line represents resistance. Ito yung range niya. To simply put, kaya hindi siya pwedeng single line lang na lagi nating binibigkas na 10K or 11,000. We always use a range of price. For example, this one, ang resistance natin dito is nagsisit siya at 10,000 to 10,100. So dito sa line ko, ang value niya is 10,200. Ito yung resistance na nakikita ko dito. Ito yung range niya. And so 10,500. And yung Fibonacci retracement natin na ginagamit natin these past few weeks, no? So it's very invalid na and nabibreak na. It also shows the sign of strength sa BTC, pero yung RSI natin is may giving us a sign na possible may consolidation pa to sa loob ng time frame niya, intraday. And ito, hindi pa natin nakikita na na magbe-break to, but the more information na binibigay sa atin, since the resistance is being retested in a lot of time, in a short period of time, and more likely mabibreak natin itong resistance na to. So, syempre, itong analysis natin, this is just a opinion lang sa market law. So, again, this is not a financial advice. So, if magkaroon tayo ng break dito sa area na to, possible na we could hit another retracement level ng ito 11,000 to 12,000. Meron tayong nakita 127. And Fibonacci extension is widely known for target prices. and widely used for identifying target prices. So yung 127 natin, ay pwede rin natin siya gawing range kasi considered din siya as support ng resistance eh. So ito meron tayong 12,300 and 12,200 na range dito. And kung magkaroon pa ng continuation yan, especially sa mga nafo-FOMO, ito yung dito sila nagkakaroon ng ng another chance kumbaga na umakit pa ulit, pero in reality that is possibly na yun na yung parang last wave. And of course, yung resistance ng 1.618, we can also see na may confluence din yan dito sa history niya during 2018, which is nag-act lahat ng prices yung level na yun as a resistance. So if we will be in a bull market, let's see kung mag-hold siya dito sa area na to. And ayun nga, as always, lagi kong sinasabi sa bias ko, I want to see a long consolidation or a long range of market na maging range tong scenario na to. So from there, ma-retest tong areas na to. Kasi malaking pera din yung kailangan natin dito para ma-break ito eh. So as of now, ang market cap kasi natin 260 to 240. So kung makaabot tayo or makabalik tayo at 500 market cap yan, Bitcoin bull run is possible na. Talagang malinaw na. Ayun.
Are you becoming more optimistic these days?
Yes, nagiging bullish mindset na ako since we already hit this area. Gaya ng sabi ko sa question nyo, di ba? Past few weeks na kailan ka bibili ng Bitcoin, before or after? So the reason why kung bakit ko sinabi after, because wala pa siyang information na binibigay, but the more na nagbibigay na siya ng information and yung pattern is nagmamaterialize na. Okay, so parang dito ang ginagawa natin is hinihintay natin mag-drawing siya ng pattern. So that's how we wait for a good setup or how we look for the market na pwede nating ma-entryhan. Dapat meron siyang setup. Okay. So ayun, to answer your question, ayun, nagiging optimistic na tayo since yung mga retracement levels natin dito, nakita natin na dinrawing dito 786, 382. Na-break niya na lahat eh, and then nilagpasan niya na. So dito, thanks to JK Rowling sa mga tweets niya. Okay, so hindi kasama yung last part na yun.
Yeah. She's an Ethereum holder, sabi niya, and she's not a Bitcoiner daw.
Yeah, pagdating naman sa cryptocurrency market, personally, kahit saan kahit saan mapunta yung money, no, kasi once nag-flow yung pera sa cryptocurrency market, damay-damay siya lahat eh. 'Di ba? Even though yung mga Potcoin, 'di ba? Dogecoin, naisip mo ba yung Luis?
Yeah. No, you're right actually.
Diba?
Yeah, so generally speaking, parang mainstream interest in any cryptocurrency results in a bigger market cap. Yeah, correct. Right. Definitely. Okay. So from last week, we were at 8,500 data when we, and then we ended today. I think we're at 9,800. I think we're testing 10,000 again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You think that that's gonna continue to next week?
Yeah, possible. Mataas yung possibility, mataas. Kasi malapit na eh. Sobrang yun na lang yung papalo ng price eh.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Mark Vernon, you have joined us a little bit late. I see you're still coming from Cloud City.
I need to be fat and happy before I chat.
Sure. All right. Fair enough. You missed a really interesting conversation about how JK Rowling had discovered Bitcoin for the first. Yeah. So we were talking the six of us about how we would have described Bitcoin to someone like JK Rowling in one or two sentences. And we got like a pretty big range of different answers. I was wondering if I could put you on the spot and like, how would you describe it to someone in her 50s, 60s?
I always say, first of all, I've got to describe the blockchain.
Okay.
And then you can understand Bitcoin a lot better. So if you explain blockchain as being a giant spreadsheet that everybody shares, you write to it or you put something in it, and you can never change it. Mm-hmm. So you start with that, and then you say, well, the fact that I've now transferred something of value, doesn't matter what it is, I've recorded it so everyone can see it and you can see it, And I don't have it anymore, you have it. So it's the first time in the world that value is being able to be transferred without a middleman. So you can describe it in lots of ways, depending on who the person is that you're explaining it to. If you're talking to a gambler or a speculator, then you say, it's a store of value, a bit like gold that you can invest in, and hopefully it'll go up in the future because everyone wants a slice. So you would obviously I'm a tech guy, so I want to explain a little bit technically, but not too technical. So I always start with blockchain first, and then say this is what you can now run on top of the blockchain because they already understand how it might work. Yeah?
How would you describe this whole thing to a billionaire children's book author, though?
She's been around long enough to know what life was like before the internet. So I would just say, when the internet came along, you have a way of suddenly transferring your transcripts, your books, etc., over the internet. You make a copy and you send it, and it's a copy. But you can't do that for value. You still needed a bank or something in between to send it to, and they would send it on. So this is the first time in history that a system is being developed which allows you to send value and not make a copy of it and send it, which is useless, but to actually send something of value, doesn't matter what it is, from one person to another. So you don't have it anymore, someone else has it. That's pretty much it. And if you want to get into the technical side, you can, but that's when people's eyes start glazing over.
Right, yeah, okay. I think that the lesson that the internet has learned from JK Rowling's reaction is it is very, very hard to explain Bitcoin, especially in one or two sentences, especially over the internet. And what you really want to do is kind of have a, long enough conversation with a person where they can ask every single question.
And it depends on where they're coming from. Sometimes a lot of people have heard Bitcoin is a scam. So you're fighting against that straight away.
Yeah.
And it depends on someone's viewpoint that they don't want to see things happen and they just have a mental block of actually understanding it. But if you keep it super simple overview, and then if they ask more questions, then you can get into more depth. Otherwise, you get stuck into the technical explanation, and people get bored with that. I've done this over the last few days, explain people, someone, start with the broad overview, and then get more and more detail as they ask more questions. So, yeah, I think that's what you have to do. You start with a broad overview, and the simpler that can be, the better.
So speaking of beginners, one of the reasons why Bloom kind of started this webcast was because we wanted to have something to show some of our customers that are, kind of discovering Bitcoin for the first time, discovering cryptocurrency for the first time. We wanted to be able to have a place where, if they wanted to, they could actually send in some questions and then we would actually answer it live. And one of the most interesting one of my personal experiences recently, just in the last week, I've had to explain how Bitcoin addresses work to a lot of people.
You mean private keys and public keys?
Well, no, not even the private key part, just why does it look like that? The letters and numbers.
So how did you explain that?
Well, so this is kind of why we're doing this episode, because we wanted to kind of share how Bitcoin addresses actually work. And kind of give people something that they can look at when they're interested to find out about this stuff. So for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to show you guys a couple of interesting slides, and feel free to just jump in whenever you want with comments or questions or whatever. But this is Bloom's first attempt at an educational segment for the Bloomcast, and it's called The Anatomy of a Bitcoin Address. So I wanted to start with this. Does anyone know what this address is? It's very, very important.
Is that your primary wallet address?
No, it's not mine. It's not my Bitcoin address. No. Any guesses? It's a very important address.
The first address that received Bitcoin?
Yes, that's correct. So
get a prize?
Yes, you get 50 Bitcoin. Ask from Ramon. He'll send it to you later.
Awesome. Thanks, Juan.
No problem.
So,
Just send me one first, then I'll send you 50.
oh, nice. So, this is the very first Bitcoin address that ever received a block reward. So technically, the very first Bitcoin that was ever generated was sent to this address. And it's very easy to remember because it's 1A1Z, right? So pretty easy to, if you ever see this again, you'll probably remember, oh yeah, okay, this is the Genesis block Bitcoin address. So this address is about, well, I guess it's over 11 years old now, the oldest Bitcoin address that we know of.
Does that belong to Satoshi Nakamoto or Hal Finney or someone?
It would be Satoshi's address because he mined it kind of privately for the first few days while no one else was on the network.
Shocking, pre-mining.
Yeah, just for the day. It's fine. It's
Just to test it.
So a lot of people who kind of see a Bitcoin address for the first time, firstly, they will have that thing that you were talking about earlier, Mark, where their eyes just kind of glaze over.
Yep.
Because to them, it's just like a random series of numbers and letters, right? But the thing about them is they're actually not random, right? And I think that's kind of one of the things that we have to kind of explain. So firstly, until very recently, there were only two types of Bitcoin addresses. One of them starts with the number 1, and one of them starts with the number 3. And I was like, Mon, did you want to take that one? Just kind of explain the difference between the two styles.
Well, I think what might be useful for people to know is just one is controlled by just one
Person
key or one person, yeah. And if it's a 3, it's probably controlled by multiple people or multiple keys. Yeah.
Right. So at Bloom, so obviously we have a company Bitcoin wallet, and those addresses all start with the number 3. But it doesn't necessarily mean that just because they start with the number 3, it means that there's 3 people that can control it. That's not what it means. It just means multiple people can control it. So you can have 5 people, 7 people.
The way you explain that is the same way that people have checks that more than one person has to sign before they're valid.
Correct. So we sometimes call those joint accounts or joint signatories. So you would have to have 1, 2, or 3 Bloom founders approve of a transaction in order for that Bitcoin wallet to actually send anything. So, okay, so it starts with either a 1 or a 3. And then it's followed by, this is the part that's not exactly random either. It's followed by somewhere between 25 and 33 letters and numbers. But those letters and numbers never ever include big letter O, the number 0, a big letter I, or a small l. And the reason for that is because Satoshi didn't want to have these numbers and letters that look too similar to each other, right? Because a big letter O and a 0 look very similar. Uppercase I and a lowercase l look very similar. So he didn't want people to kind of mistype it. And which brings me to kind of the fourth thing that's very important about Bitcoin addresses, at least this style. They are all case sensitive. So that means that big letter A at the start, it has to stay a big letter A. If you change it, then it's not really the same address anymore. In fact, it probably won't work. So you have to be very careful about how you, like back in the old days, we had some customers who were handwriting their Bitcoin addresses, and like as soon as we saw, I was like, don't do it that way, because not only is it very painful to do that, but if you get one letter wrong, one number wrong, then it's already a broken address at that point. Even if you just kind of wrote the A as a lowercase a instead of an uppercase a. So it's pretty sensitive to stuff like that.
So that's the public number, and then there's a private key. So what's the private key of that address?
The answer to that is we don't know, and we shouldn't know. If we did know what it was, then we would be Satoshi. So that's kind of the trick behind it. This question actually came about in one of our own episodes, where I think someone was asking what happens when you miswrite or mistype a Bitcoin address. So in this case, this is the same address. It was the one from before, but I've changed the A to a B instead. What actually happens? Do I send this money to, I don't know, not Satoshi, someone else, right? Is that what happens there? Did you want to take this one, Mon? Because I know that you had some answers to this also.
Okay, sure. Well, so you most likely, like the possibilities that this is a valid address are so small that the Bitcoin network will probably just reject it.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not in any danger of accidentally, typing in someone else's address and then accidentally sending Bitcoin to them. In fact, I actually have the exact odds here. The odds are 1 in 4.29 billion that this would be a valid address if you mistype one letter. So very likely your wallet will just say this is not a valid Bitcoin address and it won't actually let you send. So you're safe. However, one very important thing that I discovered just yesterday when I was preparing for the show, if you take this address right now and then you pasted it into these are called blockchain explorers, where you can kind of look up the transactions of a particular wallet, it will think that this is a valid address. And it will just find that there are no transactions in it.
Oh, really? It doesn't do any checking?
It doesn't do any checking. So it actually made me slightly paranoid that I was like, oh, maybe there is a valid wallet then. But it's not a valid address, but the block explorers actually let you type it in and they'll just say there are 0 transactions in this wallet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yun lang. So just so like you can't rely on the blockchain explorers to check for.
So I think this question, and I've gotten this before. This comes up because, when you type a wrong number, when you call somebody, or when you type a bank account number wrong, you could send that money to someone else, and that's because the way our phone numbers and bank account numbers are made are sequentially. Like they'll start with one, they'll like start with 1 million and then go to 1,000,001, 1,000,002, 1,000,003, and so the likelihood that a mistyped number there is someone else's account is pretty high.
Yeah. Right. Correct.
Which means you can send Bitcoin to a completely strange address.
Well,
by accident.
banks accept Bitcoin, sure.
Yeah. But this is why people send a small amount first, check it's okay, and then send a larger amount.
Yeah, so we've definitely had some people, some of our customers who are a little bit more, paranoid, will still do these they call them Satoshi tests. Well, they'll send you a small amount of Bitcoin, like really, really small amount, just to test that the transactions, the address is actually valid. But generally speaking, if you just copy and paste it, you're safe naman. You don't actually have to do that. Over the last 3 years, there's been a new style of Bitcoin address that is also perfectly valid. And they start with not a 1, not a 3. They start with these 3 characters, BC1. And this is a new style of Bitcoin address. The term for it is BEC32. Some people will call it the SegWit address format. The reason why this is kind of around, why we decided that we needed kind of a third format, is because we were trying to make the addresses a little bit more efficient. So it starts with BC1, it's followed by 39 letters and numbers. You can pack more of these transactions into a block. So that's kind of the reason why they exist. Also, kind of a little bit more usefully, they're case insensitive. So you can type it in all caps if you wanted. You can type it in all lowercase, or you could type it in all sorts of different cases, and it will still be the same address. So that's fine. You don't have to worry so much about capitalization. There's not a lot of wallets still, even though this started in 2017, there's still not a lot of wallets that support this. So although it's a perfectly valid address, a lot of kind of the more kind of Bitcoiners who started earlier than 2017, they still prefer the original style. And in fact, big exchanges like Binance, Bitstamp, even Paxful, they still use the old style. even though BC1, this style is a little bit more efficient.
Why would somebody want to use this version?
It's only because if more people use it, it's beneficial to the entire community because the transactions get smaller, right? So if the transactions get smaller, that means you can pack more of them into a single block. That means you can process more transactions at the same time. So it's better for everyone if everyone moves to this style.
And
it's also cheaper
result
for the
in
person, right?
lower transaction costs.
Yeah.
Yes.
The transaction fee is
correct.
Lower.
Yes, correct. I guess I should have said in the way that pricing in Bitcoin fees in the Bitcoin network works is it's based on how big the transaction is, not, and I don't mean amount. I mean the file size of the transaction, how many kilobytes. So if the transaction is a little bit smaller, fewer kilobytes, then it's cheaper. So it's cheaper. B, it's a little bit faster for everyone. And C, I guess the capitalization is a little bit easier because you don't have to think about it too much. So that's kind of the reason why you want to move to this eventually. But obviously, check with your preferred Bitcoin wallet, Bitcoin platform, or exchange or whatever if they can support it, because some of the really old school ones still don't until now. This one is kind of, I guess, in connection with something that Mark said earlier. When you do a quick test to check if an address is correct. How do I double check if a receiving address is the correct one before I send to it? Usually, if you're in a rush and you generally trust the person that you are dealing with, so if it's me to one of my co-founders, maybe it's me to Coach Eman. I just wanted to send him, 50 Bitcoin, whatever, a small gift for being cool, I'll ask him for his Bitcoin address, and then I'll just check the first 5 and then last 5 characters. And if those match up, you don't actually have to check every single character in the entire 36 character string, no? Because if the first 5 and the last 5 match, the odds that there's something wrong in the middle are so low that it's almost not really worth worrying about. And if you did get something wrong in the middle, your wallet won't send it anyway, right? So the transaction won't actually send. So you'll just kind of have to look at it again and then recheck. So generally, if you can look at the first 5 and then the last 5, you're pretty safe also in most cases. Now, granted, if you are doing a very, very large transaction, or you're doing it with someone you've never dealt with before, or if you're Mark Vernon and you just really, really want to check and you're paranoid, then there are other ways that then you do the Satoshi test, because that is for sure. Did anyone have anything else to add to this one?
So another question I get a lot is, how sure are we that the QR code that you scan of an address is correct?
How do you answer that one?
Well, the error, or like the margin of error that a QR code allows, meaning to say, if you erase a square or it gets scratched off or something like that, let's say it's a sticker, it'll still work and it'll still be able to read the address and the chances that, I don't look at the math behind this, but the chances that it'll return a wrong address are, I think, way smaller than maybe something as small as the chances that you'll get a wrong Bitcoin address if you one, or get
the next slide is actually about QR codes. So this is actually perfect. So I guess a lot of you will probably just be using the QR codes that your wallets generate, right? So you don't even copy and paste your Bitcoin address anymore. You just kind of, aim your camera phone at QR codes. So there are a couple of cool things about QR codes. As Mon was saying, they're actually very, very reliable. They work even when they're rotated, meaning they're kind of to the side, even if they're upside down, even if you flip them, they will still be read by your camera. In fact, if you have a camera phone right now, you can actually aim it at the screen, and you can aim it at the lower left QR code, which has been kind of flipped, no? And you'll see that they will actually still be able to read the correct address. This QR code, by the way, is the 1A1 Genesis block address. So what's super cool about QR codes is that they're black and white, so you can print them on anything, and they're very easy. Even from afar, your camera can still usually read them, and they will work even if some of the image has been kind of rubbed off or damaged, as long as the 4 squares are kind of still visible. And if you can't see the 4 squares, there's 1, 2, and 3 on the bottom left, and upper right. And then there's one tiny square on the bottom right, this really small one.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, that square is always there. That's how you can tell that which side the QR code is facing. So if you hide that, then the code doesn't work anymore. So you have to make sure that that's still there. But yeah, generally speaking, if you're worried about parang how do I properly tell this person that I'm buying Bitcoin from, how do I properly give him my address? Your QR code that your wallet is generating, absolutely safe. In fact, it's probably even better than just copying and pasting sometimes. Any other thoughts on this particular slide? We learned a lot about QR codes when we were building Bloom's Teller app, so some of this stuff is still from
Nothing right now, but I will want to say something about, verifying, and that might be another episode because that discussion can be a long one. But how sure are you that the address your wallet is generating is actually your address and not a hacker's, right?
Wow, that's a hard one. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
That does sound like an actual full other episode. I don't even know where you begin with the security on that. Well, interesting.
Well, it depends on the wallet you're using. If it's something you've never heard of and some hackers put it up on the...
That's certainly one common way.
Right.
Yeah.
Just be, buyer beware or holder beware. There's a lot of scams out there. You just got to be aware of them.
Right. Okay. Let's move on. This might be one of the last questions here, but I do get this a lot. A lot of the people who have just started in Bitcoin, they usually will have one address and they'll use that over and over again. This is very common for people who have kind of trading or business relationships with others, and then they just have one particular wallet address that they will give to all of their trading partners, and then everyone will just send to that. So the question is it okay to keep using the same Bitcoin address? And I guess kind of as a follow-up question to that, is it safe to post my address on my website or my shop window, as is here, and also this Pizza Palace
Depends if you've got anything to hide.
Yeah, actually has their Bitcoin address on their window. So if you wanted to buy a pizza, you go inside to buy the pizza, and then you go outside to pay the Bitcoin, which is kind of odd. But anyway, so the point is that some restaurants used to do this a lot, where they would actually post their QR code, on the right beside the cash register sometimes. So first question, is it okay to keep using the same Bitcoin address? I think we might have some different thoughts here. Mark, you're nodding.
Yeah, it depends on how paranoid you are. Because the blockchain and the Bitcoin blockchain is transparent, everybody can see everything that goes into one address. So if you don't mind your competitors seeing everything that's coming in onto that address, then okay, but not all your money goes through that address. But if you want to split it up, you might rotate different addresses every day. And if you post something on your Facebook for receiving money by Bitcoin, then it ties your personal identity to your Bitcoin address, which means if you're tax paranoid or if you're paranoid about certain things, then someone can check exactly how much money is going into, and then maybe say you're not paying tax on it.
Right.
So it depends on what you want to do.
Right. Mon, Do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah. It's okay from like a security, and I don't mean privacy, but like security point of view, where you're not gonna like lose your Bitcoin, or it's not like someone can steal your Bitcoin if the whole world knows your address. But there is a security or privacy issue. I mean, where people could learn more about you. So imagine, let's say you get paid your salary every month, and it's in Bitcoin, and then you buy coffee or you buy pizza from Pizza Palace, right? And someone could look at the teller could look at that transaction and see how much you get per month, how much that address receives per month, and
Right.
yeah.
And this is one of
So
the
depending on the kind of person you are, that might be a bad thing or fine, or it might be okay.
If you think about what China's doing with their central issued currency, the central government obviously wants to track everything that everyone spends. So I'm not sure in China if everyone can see the blockchain, so everyone can track everyone's transactions, or whether they say no one can look at it, it's only us or only people that we allow to look at it. But that's one of the arguments against the public blockchain being used for replacing all cash money.
Right. Coach, what do you
same.
tell your students? Do you change your address each time?
First time ko lang na-encounter yung question pero agree with Ramon and Mark. So just in case, let's say government natin may something na nangyari and they start to track all of our address, di ba? So parang, uy, si ano to habulin mo! Di ba? They might chase us after buying.
Yeah.
The thing is, you have one address that you might have transferred from other addresses, so it can all be traced back.
Trace back.
So someone could work out how much Bitcoin I've got for a certain range of addresses based on past transactions.
Well, we already know how much Bitcoin you've got, Mark. I mean, I don't need the blockchain for that. I just ask.
60,000 Bitcoin? I don't know.
Oh, it's grown a little bit since last time. Okay, that's good. Good for you. So the one thing that I wanted to, my own opinion on this is change your Bitcoin address for each transaction if you can. And if you're using one of the more modern wallets, Bloom always recommends BRD to its customers. So BRD is Bread Wallet. Every time you click the receive button, it generates a new Bitcoin address anyway. And then all of the Bitcoin you receive just gets added to your balance. So there's no danger of it going somewhere else. But there's an additional protection in that the person who sent that transaction, they can only see the transaction that they made because there's nothing else in that address. So that's kind of useful.
And
so also,
I was going to say, this is a little different to other blockchains. So Bitcoin-style blockchains do this because they use something more technical, the HD wallet stuff. But things like Ethereum, that's account-based, so it doesn't do that. Stellar, again, it generates one address. So you'll find a lot of people, if they're using certain blockchains, they just stick to one address. So it's one of the advantages of Bitcoin. It's pretty cool to generate automatically. But if you're generating thousands of addresses for lots of payments, you end up with, well, if you have to recover your wallet, it might take a bit of time.
Wait, by the way, question. Di ba, alam niyo, aware ka sa gumagamit ka sa blender.io.
Okay.
Blender.io.
Is that a Tumblr? Is that a Tumblr or a...
Di ko alam kung Tumblr siya eh. So, I don't know. Siguro magandang topic yun for next week, no? Blender.io.
Yeah, it is a
parang imimix niya.
Yeah.
Yung ano.
Yep. Okay, so that's an interesting topic for people who are doing sketchy things with their Bitcoin. And
di ako sketchy ba?
Coach Eman was exactly the person who I expected was going to talk about that.
Crypto traders want to hide how much they make.
Oh man, that's not sketchy. I mean, I don't know about Blender.io, right? Like, how do you know that it's gonna send you your Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Tas pa rin.
But there are downloadable tumblers, right? That will kind of let you do this yourself. You really, really want to protect your transaction price.
So that you can verify cryptographically that it will go back to you, right?
It depends on your levels of paranoia.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I will say that I wanted to clarify one thing though. So in platforms or marketplaces, so Paxful is one of them, and I just wanted to kind of clarify this. On Paxful, every user gets one address, and that's kind of it, no, unless you really force the platform to give you a new address. And that's completely fine because in this case, the platform itself is parang taking responsibility for the coins on your behalf. Am I describing this correctly, April? So when I make a Bitcoin deposit into Paxful, my account only has one wallet address parang associated with this, correct?
Yes.
And then the reason why that's okay is because parang Paxful is taking responsibility for the safety of.
And no one else knows who that address belongs to except for that platform. So unless they share that with tax authorities, then it doesn't matter.
But is there a way for you to change your addresses on Paxful if you wanted to?
I haven't actually seen that feature yet, so I don't think at this time this is. I might be wrong. I'll correct myself in the comment if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. Not this time yet.
Okay.
So I just transferred something to Bittrex yesterday, and I didn't notice anything to be able to regenerate my address. But it must be if you really wanted to. Oh well.
You mean Paxful?
Oh yeah, she was talking about Paxful.
Oh, there is. I'm sorry, there is. If you click on your wallet, there's a button there. Get a new address. So there is.
Oh, okay. Right. So in other words, Paxful does also give you the option to rotate or create new addresses so that you're not always sending to just the same one over and over again. And that's useful if you are starting to build too much of a history on that one address.
Why would it matter? Why would it matter?
I don't know, man. You tell me. I mean, are you afraid of the tax person?
Yeah, but that's if you think that if the exchange is going to share that information, they're going to share all addresses that belong to one person, or just it doesn't really matter. So I don't see the point of changing it.
Yeah, I suppose that there's not really much there. I mean, I guess it's also just for if you are competing against other traders in the marketplace, you don't necessarily want everyone to see how much business you're doing.
But they don't know who deposited to what address. So how do they?
Well, they would know that it's your address if they have ever done business with you, right?
Because that's the address you're giving on the exchange. So you should never give the exchange address as a payment address.
You
mean if you have like you're sending it and you've actually used the same address to receive, they can see where it's going to. But then how would they know that address belongs to whichever exchange you're working with?
I think that got kind of complicated. Now I'm having a hard time following the question. So I think we might have to leave it at that one because I actually don't understand your question well enough to actually pause it and answer. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to say about kind of just this, just general safety guidelines about sharing your Bitcoin address? I guess kind of the most important thing is
don't share your private key.
Well, yes, that goes without saying.
But you haven't, you've said what's the anatomy of a public address. Most people would say, well, how does that link to a private address, or what is the private address to go with this public address?
Well, I mean, you got to give me material for the next episode, Mark. There's a lot of information right now. And also, the intention with this series is to have just a few bite-sized bits of information that we can kind of share with people. And then, kind of move on to other topics as we go on. And I think already from this discussion, we're already kind of coming up with a bunch of other ones. We'll do Coach Eman's dark web stuff, maybe in a subsequent episode.
How come he knows a lot about the dark web?
I don't know. He's just that kind of guy, I think.
Research.
He read it in the library. I don't know. Okay, so
Is there a risk? So let's say
Yes, Tony, go ahead.
somebody wants, for example, wants to raise funds for frontliners, and then they want to accept donations via crypto, and then they'll put up a QR code, and then someone who has not so good intentions will just tamper with the QR code and put in his own address as that PDF or JPEG is circulating. So
that is a real danger. Yeah, because you can't just look at a QR code and know immediately that it's something else, and most people will not double check if the address has changed, and that's why it's kind of dangerous. Yeah. That's why if we were ever to do that, we would print the QR code and the Bitcoin address underneath it and hope that people aren't editing it. But like, if it's printed material, the chances are it's too easy to change it.
At least we should lead the people to donate, who want to donate to a website that you can verify is this organization's website.
I see.
Right.
Okay.
And the QR code is there.
Yeah.
Okay, before you close, there's another question from the crowd. They're asking for wallet recommendations aside from, so you mentioned Bread BRD earlier, and maybe you want to discuss a little bit about custodial versus non-custodial wallets.
Sure. Well, actually, I was hoping to save that for another episode, but we'll do a really quick one, Lang.
Well, I can tell you the difference because I'm going through that process myself.
Okay, sure. Hit us.
Custodial is that we manage your money because we have a money backed up in the bank. So we manage your money and you can then transfer it back around. And for the last few years, you transferred your Bitcoin to us and you can do the same thing. But most people don't want to do that. They want to manage their own Bitcoin using the public and private keys we're talking about. And that's with a non-custodial wallet. And that's where the recommendations are as to which ones you should use.
Okay. So BRD Bread is one of my favorites. It's quite simple. The other one that I really like is called Green. That's from Blockstream. Did you have any other recommendations, Mon?
Well, this one, my recommendation is for the ones who are a bit technical already. Electrum is pretty good.
That's a very technical wallet.
It is a technical one.
One of the most simplest is Trust Wallet. You know that one?
Yeah, the Binance one. Yes. Yeah.
Well, they bought it. Yeah. And,
Binance bought it. Yes, correct. Yeah.
And I'm copying the basic principles of that to make my own Tag Crypto wallet. Here's a little plug. Yeah.
Right. Does your Tag wallet also handle all of these?
No, we're actually splitting off separate products. So we have Tag Cash, which is for cash and rewards, and then we'll have a Tag Crypto wallet, which is just non-custodial, where you log in with where you just go and use private keys and public keys, and then you'll be able to buy from within that. But there's a demand. The people that want to use cryptos usually want to manage it with their own private keys. So I think that's the way to go rather than forcing them, like exchanges tell you to send their money to them. So the exchanges really would be good wallets, but they don't really, like wallets for custodial management of your money. But they don't do that. So the future will be non-custodial management of your own funds, so you're in control.
Coach Eman, what is your preferred personal wallet?
Does he have any Bitcoin?
I don't have.
He might
I
have
don't have.
He might have a few.
What do you use?
Yung Mew. You know Mew?
Mew? That's Ethereum.
Yeah.
So what do you send your mass amounts of Bitcoin around with?
This guy's an ether guy.
Sorry, guys. I'm with JK Rowling.
Oh no!
Point out. Just to point out that there used to be Bitcoin only wallets like blockchain.info, which is probably one of the biggest wallets used. But now more and more wallets are having multi-coin ability. So for me, it's going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum-based products, and Stellar. So that allows you the biggest usage of tokens and the native currency. But you got Trust, I think, is a multi-blockchain wallet. And I think in the future will be multi-blockchain. I use Konomi, which is, it's not too technical. And so I'm playing with DAI, a token based on Ethereum, like pegged to the dollar. I'm using Bitcoin, I'm using Ethereum, and I've started messing with Tron. So that's actually multiple blockchains in one wallet, which makes it easier for me to do stuff. But you still make mistakes. I still send $500 to the wrong wallet by accident. Copy and pasting of addresses. You can have.
Montayag, did you have something that you wanted to?
Yeah. So Electrum, the mobile version isn't any good. I have it installed, but what I like Electrum for is multi-sig capability. And
that's not mobile, is it? Is that mobile or?
No,
just...
I don't believe it's on mobile. Last time I checked, it wasn't. But on mobile, I like Breeze, BREEZ, because hey, if I'm gonna have Bitcoin on my phone, and it's not gonna be a lot, I'd like it to be really easy to send and Lightning network capable. So Breeze.
It's got Lightning. Okay, cool. Okay, that's a good recommendation.
Yeah, BREEZ without the E at the end.
Got it. Okay, cool. BREEZ. And then the other recommendation was BRD. And then the other recommendation was GREEN. Let me spell everything for you guys. Cool. Okay. So what we want to do is keep the questions kind of coming in week on week. And then maybe if the question is like big enough, we can build an entire episode around it. We'll just kind of talk about the various parang angles of a given question. I think that we'll probably have to do one about backup phrases / private keys, just because that's such an important part of the first few steps for every new Bitcoin person.
Possibly paper wallets as part of that? Right.
Yeah, possibly. I guess... Yeah, I mean, I guess we could explain. Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, you'd already be explaining how to, print it out anyway. Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay.
We have another interesting question if we have time, or you can table it for the next episode.
No, go for it.
Asking, do you recommend multi-signature wallets for beginners to get into right away?
No.
Okay, so that's a straight up almost no, definitely no across the board. I will tell you that if you know what you're doing, it's a really interesting way to safeguard your coins. Because even if you're a single person, you can still make a multi-sig wallet and you leave one key at home, leave another key in your office, leave another key maybe in your mobile phone.
But we're talking about beginners here and we don't...
Yeah.
Well, unless the beginner buys a lot of Bitcoin, right? Like,
in which case you probably need to.
I think it mostly depends on the amount. Like if it's an amount that you'd keep it in your physical wallet on your back pocket, don't bother with multi-signature. But if it's, I don't know, 50, 100,000 pesos and above, you might want to start looking into it. Right?
So you guys are going to have to teach me more on multi-sig because 8 years now I haven't stored my own wallets in multi-sig. It's more multiple, single wallet.
Okay, that's
nice.
terrible.
Nice that you're. Yeah, I know. Thanks for announcing that to everyone. But, okay.
No, it doesn't make any difference really. But you change. Like I changed from having one big wallet, then the value raised, so you split it up into multiple wallets. And as technology changes, or as you want to protect yourself, then you need to change how you store the Bitcoin. But for a beginner, definitely not into multi-sig wallets.
Yeah, it is. The difficulty of it is significant. Like to get started, it's pretty significant. However, Ramon is correct. If you're planning on buying a lot, you need to invest this time into kind of this basic personal security.
If you're going to invest that much money, you should learn a lot.
Right. Correct. Yeah. So, okay. So back to what I was saying earlier, we're going to keep taking these questions from our audiences, from our friends, some of the customers that we talk to on a day-by-day basis. And we're going to compile them all into each of these shows that we do every week. So if you have some burning question, if you have something that you have always wondered about crypto, how it works, all of that stuff, please feel free to message one of the Bloom team, and we'll try to feature it on the next couple of episodes. I think we can wrap up now. Let's do a sign off. Coach Eman, where can people find more of you, more of your work on the internet?
Hey guys, you can go to my Facebook page, fb.com, cryptocurrency trader 10, and YouTube, cryptocurrency trader.
Thank you so much. Mark Vernon, where can we find more of you and your work?
Tagcash.com and tagbond.com, my latest baby that I just made live, which is a whole nother ball game when you're describing, when you have to get into non-fungible tokens. And yeah, that's another subject for another show, which is not to do with Bitcoin, I don't think.
April Albera, where can we find more of you and your work?
Yeah, we have a Paxful Filipino community on Telegram, so please join us there. And if I can say, I also have a webinar tomorrow, so find the details in our Telegram channel.
Thank you so much. Ramon Tayag, do you want to take us out?
Yeah, sure. You can find out about what Bloom does at bloom.solutions, and we hope to see you again next week.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Same channel, I guess we could say. Yeah.
Same time, same place.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, and we've signed off.
Louis,
Thank you.
Louis, did you sign off the voice as well, the audio?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Last